Welcome to the UFFS Podcast with Darren Bates and Larry Fisher. Shining a spotlight on the most realistic fantasy sports platform ever. If it happens in Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports, you'll find out here. UFFS, you own the game.
And welcome to the official UFFS podcast number 24, broadcast very proudly on the UFSN network. I'm Bates, he's Fish. Fish, are you ready? Are you ready for what we have already uncovered in this massive announcement in the UFFS ecosystem? I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, Darren, it was a monumental day for Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports today to get out our first official partnership with a group of pro athletes, the National Football League Alumni Association, the NFL Alumni coming on board, partnering with UFFS as well as Zilliqa to help launch the Legends League, the American Football Legends League, the AFLL. It's a blockbuster announcement earlier today, and I can't wait to cover it throughout today's show, especially with Andy McNamara joining us, the head of football operations for UFFS. And Andy's going to blow some minds with what he's got in the works following up on this big announcement.
Well, Andy's passion, he always brings passion, and I know that he's going to have a lot of finer details to be able to bring on today's podcast. So very much looking forward to that. Never stop playing is going to be the key phrase that's going to define this announcement, in my opinion. Other matters to deal with today, of course, are pro versus rookie picks in the UFHL NHL Playoff Pool. It's a pretty tight race right now, Fish. I think I might have you. I don't know, but the wheels could come off the bus. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's a tight race. Also very noteworthy is our GM of the year. We'll talk a little bit about that. And we need to talk about this special score coin. It's not an NFT. It's real. You can hold it in your hand. I think it's very exciting, and I want people to know about it. And as you said, Fish, passion, blockbuster announcement. We're going to be back to talk to Andy M right after this.
Time for a quick lineup change, but Bates and Fish will be back right away with today's guest.
Never stop playing. Go long, Andy. Great to have you back again, man. It's like we only rent your time when there's important announcements, but I don't know. It's okay because you're an important guy as head of football operations for UFFS, and the announcement's out, but maybe not everybody has seen or heard, and if they have not, give us the goods, my friend.
Boy, gentlemen, first of all, thank you for having me back. I wish I was smart enough to think of a better word than excited, than thrilled. Like the word isn't quite there. So I'll draw from the great nature boy Ric Flair and just go, woo! This is the big time, guys. This is the big time when it comes to fantasy football, because we talked about the UFAHL for current NFL fantasy play. The AFLL, American Football Legends League, is going to be a spot, and you saw that right on the screen, never stop playing. This is where I'm coining this the NFL version of Field of Dreams. These legends can play fantasy football forever. And for fantasy franchise owners in the AFLL, for the players themselves, you get to have these legends in what's going to be the most detailed simulation fantasy football play ever seen, guys. Ever seen. 32 teams We're going to have multiple position groups all over the place, including offensive linemen, because we know how important they are, and they're in the Hall of Fame, of course, so they're going to get a spot too in the AFLL. And just the depth, the NFT options, the gameplay, the simulation is coming quick. More details to follow, but this is so special because it's a case where we have, all right, your favorite player retires. And for fantasy football purposes, that's it. It's over. Well, not anymore. You can play them forever. And it's so cool and such a great idea and formula and format to bring. It's absolutely unbelievable. That's all I can say.
You know, you're right. It is hard to find words these days. And every time I turn around, in fact, it's almost by the minute, Andy, and Fish would know this too within UFFS. There's just so many moving parts and so many exciting things on a daily, hour, maybe even minute basis. You can't come up with words anymore. But, acronyms, just as a lead in, because we throw these things around, in various corporations I've been involved with in my history. There's acronyms in which when you're new to it, you go, yeah, I hear it, but I have no idea what you're talking about. So let's just run through these first and foremost because we know what they mean. But NFLA, sure. National Football League Alumni. We talk about AFLL, American Football Legends League, and the UFAHL, of course, Ultimate Fantasy American Football League. I don't know if I've missed anything, but I think it's always important because we just throw these things out like nothing.
Because we're used to it.
So, yeah, exactly. But let's talk about, so like you said, never stop playing. So ongoing fantasy revenue for retired alumni. And so, I'm football crazy. I'm wearing my Saskatchewan Roughriders shirt because it's the only football jersey that I have. So I felt it was fitting. But the UFAHL season is done. Now what? Now this, right? It's ongoing. Yep.
Exactly. And that's the next build. And you said the NFLA, the National Football League Alumni Association, to be partnered with them is so special because it gives an immediate legitimacy, importance to this new league. We are associated with the real life NFL alumni, the guys who represent the stars of yesteryear. And that is how vital it is, the partnership, the relationships we're going to be able to build and grow from that association, and a lot of other things that we can't even get into right now that are going to blow everybody's mind. I can assure you that. It's a case where we're going to be able to go through, as you said, the regular NFL season, and the plan is to have the franchise auction in September and the AFLL season to start right around the end of the Super Bowl, ideally Pro Bowl week, because all these guys who are in the NFL Alumni Association, who were stars or Hall of Famers, they're all in the Pro Bowl. So I thought that's a perfect time to launch. So that's going to be the goal, to have it go there. And again, have it mirror, just like the UFAHL and the real life NFL is to mirror reality. So we're going to have 17 game regular season. There's going to be playoffs. The sim side. And I should point out too, the part that I find super interesting from this legend standpoint is all the legends are going to be simulated into the league at their top, at their height, at their peak. So we're not going to get stats or play of, maybe Emmitt Smith the last year with the Cardinals, Joe Namath when he was not with the Jets. Unfortunately, a lot of the greats sometimes play 1 year too long, and we want to remember them at their best. And so in this league, in this gameplay, you're getting the best of the best. And I'm fascinated to see how this plays out when it comes to franchise owners, from drafting, from building teams, because this isn't just something, guys, that's going to be like Team A versus Team B, boop, push a button, and there's your box score. No. This is going to be so much more detailed, so much more calculated, so much more emphasis put on the coaching side of this, which I think is fascinating, because if you have best versus best, how does that play out? And that's all part of the formula and the, boy, I just can't wait. The unique, the collectibles, everything that's going to be involved with this. Wow.
Yeah, there's lots of moving parts, as we said. So, sorry, Fish. I just wanted to finish off my thought here. So, because I think a lot of people might be scared, because they'll think, man, like, I don't really follow, football that closely. I don't understand, all the intricacies of the league that well. So if I'm not a diehard fantasy football fan, and I'm just maybe just from an investment side, or how else can I get involved, or why should I be involved?
Yeah. Well, and that's another terrific point. There's so many layers. Like, it just seems like when we cover one area, you could go down so many different roles, and that's why it's called in UFF Sports the ecosystem, because it's true. It's its own animal. It's its own breathing thing. So if you're not a big football fan or more casual or whatever from the investment side, well, let's begin with the franchise auctions, and that's for either the UFAHL auctions are going to be franchise auctions July 16, or the AFLL, which are going to be in September. The investment side is you get in on one of these teams now, and Larry can speak to the hockey side, of course, as well as far as the value of those franchises. That's an investment. Also, the scouting side. Here's the other thing, guys, to get away from the legend side for a moment, from the UFAHL angle. We're going to be going two years this year, but 2, 3, 4, all the way eventually back into high school for scouts to be able to register, buy the fantasy player rights, and earn revenue on players. So think about this. If you're like, you can be part of build your own scouting group. You can make it as big or as little as you want. You can be one guy who has a favorite team. Let's say you like the Ohio State Buckeyes. That's your team. All right. Well, and you feel, I know a lot of these guys. Maybe there's some hidden gems here. You go and purchase, auction, bid on the player fantasy rights of those players in college. And then when they get to the pros, and even before that, you can trade. If you find a gem and they start popping, and all of a sudden we're leading up to the NFL draft, and boy, maybe this guy's turning into a first round pick. You sell that player. And then if you hold on, you get to the pros, and you give it to, and you sell it to a UFAHL franchise owner. There's investment opportunities all throughout. There's going to be staking in franchises. There's going to be a whole bunch of things from that standpoint. And from the Legends angle of it, it's, well, same thing. Franchises are going to go up in value. NFTs from players that are coming on, I absolutely cannot wait until we can reveal some of the players that are coming on. It's going to blow your minds, guys. It's going to, this isn't an exaggeration. I have to hold back. It is so thrilling to know the guys. So you get a franchise, those players are going to come on, those legends and their NFTs. Well, that all plays into the ownership level. And there's so many layers to it from an investment standpoint and just a straight up fun standpoint, because it's going to be big money, high stakes, lots of opportunity, and a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't think you can overstate the importance of the partnership with the NFL alumni, Andy, and having the actual players attached to the game, because they will be created as they come on, as we do the individual player announcements. Those players will be created as a player NFT for fantasy purposes. And just like you said, that perpetual income, perpetual revenue that'll be generated. Just maybe talk about the significance of that partnership with the players, and the fact that UFF Sports in general, along with Zilliqa and obviously the NFL Alumni Association, the reason for the partnership was to give back to the players, especially, some of the players from past eras that, maybe are, still working their way through retirement, and just the fact that this gives them, it gives them, more fame, more, the dream lives on, never stop playing, but also the revenue side, and just some of these revenue streams that'll be coming back to these legends of yesteryear, as you said.
Well, that's such a terrific point. And with UFF Sports, the model, and it's so easy to get caught up on how cool the gameplay is going to be, how big the prize pool is, how unique this is, how truly from the legend side and the UFAHL side, it's going to be the most complete fantasy gameplay in fantasy football ever. Like, this is changing the game. But the part that might get lost, and that shouldn't, and that's so important, is we're giving players streams of revenue for their image, for their hard work. Think about these legends from the time they were 8 years old, building up their abilities, their brands, sacrificing their bodies. And in the real world, when you're done playing, that's it. It's done. Well, not with UFF Sports. That's why players will have that chance by being brought on through the NFTs to get revenue streams, to the sale of that, through unique collectibles that are going to be just wow the fans from what you're going to be able to have from some of the best stars who ever lived, who ever played the game. you're getting that, but what does that do? That gives back to the players as well for the prize pool. Rewarded for fantasy play, I think is super unique. That's going to come up in the leagues, where the better your player goes, the more chance they have to get a cut of the prize pool. That's another revenue stream. So you're helping the players, and you as a fan buying those NFTs, betting on the games eventually, getting in on all this action from a scouting standpoint, franchise, working with franchises, whatever that might be. And you get a chance to give back to the players. The revenue to have them keep earning is so special. And I think is something you really have to look at as doing something really good for these players, and to just keep remembering them as they were and as they are now. And that's the extra hidden part that we get lost sometimes in all the excitement of it. But boy, to be able to have that and give the power back to the players, the stars, the guys who sacrificed everything, is truly special.
It is, and they definitely deserve to stay in the spotlight. And I think you hit on a ton of good points there, Andy. And circling back to the actual gameplay side, like I said, the fact that they're going to earn, and this doesn't just include the AFLL, the Legends League for American football, but also for all sports. As the real world players come on and generate their NFTs, they're all going to earn revenue from fantasy gameplay earnings. So the way that works is the prize pool for the franchises, the franchise owners, they're obviously going to take their cut. And then there's going to be a cut of that, a percentage of that prize pool that actually goes back to the NFT holder or owner and the real world player themselves. And the way that works, and it is based on, because they're, how subjective is it? Which player gets which amount of revenue? Does it go by what round they were drafted in, or their career stats or whatever? But it actually goes by their performance in the game in that season. So the percentage of fantasy points that both the active NFL players for the UFAHL as well as the Legends players, the percentage of fantasy points that they earn for that franchise during the gameplay is the percentage of the players' cut that they receive. So it's so revolutionary that way, that the players are actually, and they're going to have a vested interest in watching the gameplay because and cheering on some of these fantasy franchises, because the better they do, the more kickback the players are going to get. But another thing, talking about the simulated gameplay, because a lot of fantasy sports people might be new to simulated gameplay, and going back and to when I played a little bit of sim, you're right. I mean, even on your video games and stuff, if you're playing sim, you hit the button and it spits out the box score. But now to actually bring onto the coaching aspect, hiring, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, special teams coordinators, and be able to coach these Legends League franchises. And as you mentioned, Andy, make changes on the fly. So maybe the first quarter simulates, you see something, right? And then you tweak something for the second quarter, or you make halftime changes. Just talk about how cool the coaching aspect is for the gameplay on the simulated side.
Yeah. And first of all, to your point, Larry, the fact that fantasy performance gets paid out. Well, how often do you see on social media people chirping their players on, oh, you didn't do it in the place? Like, I don't get anything out of this. Well, now you do. In the UFAHL, you do. In the simulation gameplay, you do. That is what, and I think it is going to be something where now players have a vested interest in fantasy football at the highest level with UFF Sports because of that. And it makes total sense if you think of it. And I'm so glad we're the ones to be bringing this forward for the first time and really, again, revolutionize the fantasy football space. And you're doing all the work. You should get paid. And we have the format for that. So for the simulation side, which is in the works now, specifics, there's going to be some changes, some tweaks. And just as we formulate and build this out, it's going to be a case for these Legends players in the AFLL where I'm going to find it interesting how, okay, if you have two great running backs, how do you coach that? How do you coach with the best wide receivers versus some of the best linebackers, some of the best safeties? How does that gameplay work? Because in real life fantasy football, of course, you're at the mercy of what the players actually do. If one player goes out first quarter and they're on your fantasy team, tweak their ankle, well, that's real life. Okay. The Legends side, we're having all the top guys from different eras calculated in together. How does that work? And that is going to be so fascinating to see play out, that type of simulation. you're coaching. So it's not just hey, this is kind of neat, I'm going to pop these guys in a line. Like, you could, but you're not going to win the top prize money. And the prize pool money for franchise owners in both leagues is going to be substantial. It's high stakes, and it's going to be it's just going to be at, again, a level we have not seen from so many different avenues. So that sim play is going to be so in depth. I think it's going to shock people out of how much you can do with that compared to what you're used to. Because this is going to be nothing like, oh, I'm looking at a box score. No. You got to be involved. You want to win, you got to be involved.
Yeah, Andy, you said it right. High stakes. We've already seen it in the UFHL, where we essentially envision or starting to see the coming together of general managers that are managing franchises, making it a full-time job, actually making a career out of it. This is what we're going to see when we talk about high stakes. But here is one thing, I'm picking up on in this conversation too, is I don't believe I've ever seen a level of engagement where you have, whether if it's in the UFAHL, of course, you have the players that are playing now, but in the Legends League and the alumni, you're going to have alumni rooting for the fan or the franchise owner or the coach of this simulated league. It's a cohesive ecosystem like I never really imagined, to be honest. And now it's coming to fruition. It's almost hard to believe. Like you say, you can't even come up with words.
Yeah, well, that's it. So you're going to have alumni X, legend X comes on board with their NFT. Well, now they have a vested interest because they're on with their NFT and signed up. That's where they get that prize pool money based on their performance. Well, that's going to be a part of which franchise drafts them. How are they coaching? Like, there's going to be a vested interest. So you're going to have the legends cheering for you. Like, how about that for a twist? The legends are going to be compensated off of how you perform with your decisions, lineups, game changes, all that. Unbelievable. Exactly.
It is amazing. Okay, mister, I'm in. You sold me on it. What do I need to do to get started today? First steps. What do I need to do today?
Well, first, I would say get on all the social media, right? Track. We're going to put links and all that there. So on Twitter at the AFLL, you can find it there. And for at UFAHL _UFFS, myself as well at Andy MC81. I'm retweeting everything there on Instagram at Andy MC Sports. So it's all going to be there. Jump in the Telegram groups as well. The links are on Twitter. If you want to know, leave a question in the comments section. We're happy to hook you up there. That's where all the info is going to be. And we're going to get ready. So step number 1 is July franchise auction for UFAHL, player drafts after that, futures auctions after that, and then the AFLL in September. So much to go on. So any questions, of course, hit us up. It's a lot to digest, but believe me, this is something like you've never seen before.
Awesome. So obviously the news release is on the website, www.uffsports.com. Go ahead, folks, and read that. Of course, some more detailed information you'll hear here with Andy as our guest. And I want to thank you so much, Andy, for joining us today and giving us the finer details of this most exciting times ahead announcement today.
Yeah, everybody, you're going to want to stay tuned. So uffsports.com, all the social media, big things coming. Thank you, gentlemen.
And after this, Fish and I make our picks in the UFHL, NHL, second round of the playoff pool, and some other important things to talk about right after this.
This is the UFFS Podcast, Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports, where you own the game.
So, wow, Fish, imagine now, not only in the offseason for die-hard fantasy sports fans to play in the multitude of other sports that the UFFS ecosystem, operates in, but now, if you're a die-hard fantasy football fan, it really never stops. It really never stops. It goes on and on and on, just like the Energizer Bunny. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Absolutely, Darren. And it is great that the the AFLL, the Legends League, is going to kick off at the Pro Bowl, like Andy said, and then run through obviously the Super Bowl weekend, and then straight through that off season leading up to the NFL draft and their free agency. You're going to have football year round in NFL, because it is quite a break between the Super Bowl and kickoff for the next season. So now we have the AFLL Legends League to fill that void for the hardcore fantasy football community, and the fantasy football community is hardcore. Of all the fantasy sports to play, American football is the generates the most revenue, the most interest. It's the biggest sport out there for fantasy sports. So I think this is a huge addition to UFFS, and it's going to be awesome to see how it evolves and how it grows and how it comes out of the gate with the franchise auctions in September and kickoff at the Pro Bowl in February or January.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting with all these things yet to come. Obviously, some big names yet to be announced, and that'll come as this project continues on. But just the passion in what Andy was talking about, and even I don't even think my mind has gotten fully around this whole idea. Just imagining owning a legend, because we all grow up. You go through different stages in life. You're young, and just getting introduced to sports. You kind of find your favorite players, and basically it's probably somebody that your uncles or your older brothers or sisters or your parents cheered for, and then you start to gravitate to your own favorite players, and then they retire and they become legends. I can't even imagine owning an NFT of a legend that you followed throughout your entire life. This is just going to bring a whole new dynamic to everything involved in fantasy sports. I think this is, to be honest, I think this is kind of the pinnacle.
It is, especially when that legend is actually involved. You're not just playing a simulated game with a character. The real person is, in a lot of cases, is going to be behind that NFT, and you might partner with them in some ways. Maybe you're selling your Legends League franchise jersey with that player's name on it, or maybe he even signs some jerseys for you and sells them, because that revenue stream from the merchandise also funnels back to the player. They get a cut of all revenue. So I think that the potential there is limitless, and the careers are endless. And even for, unfortunately and sadly, a lot of these legends from the early years have passed away. But, there's still the opportunity for their family and their, to come forward and register them and get them as an NFT. And this can generate revenue for generations, not just the player themselves, but for their family and their children and their children, and many decades and generations of revenue available through this platform that never stops playing, like you said, Darren. And I think another big thing, as you mentioned, the big names, right? And I could tell Andy was biting his tongue today. He didn't want to let out any names, and we didn't do any name drops today, but those names are coming. And I know Andy's excited about, obviously in August, the Hall of Fame events for football. Maybe get some big legends announced there. And certainly between now and September, when the Legends League franchise auctions for the AFLL take place in mid-September. Obviously, there'll be some big names coming out between now and then. So it's just a matter of time to get all those players onboarded and ready to get player NFTs out there for them, so they can actually be a part of the gameplay and part of the ecosystem. So exciting times ahead, absolutely.
Yeah, you bet. Never stop playing, keep going and going. And NFT creation, collectibles of NFL alumni, of course, but taking it to the next level by adding utility is what we always say, second generation NFTs in simulated fantasy gameplay in this perspective, but potentially for, obviously serious prize money. We could have some very, very big prize pools, as Andy alluded to. Speaking of NFTs, how about this block asset UFFS partnership? Allowing for specialization in collectibles and in a space that needs focus and dedicated personnel. This is another big one, and it happened between our last podcast and this one, the news release, of course, on the UFFS website. But Fish, this is pretty cool stuff too. Gets into a space that, digital art is certainly not my specialty, but these guys have the expertise. They're going to have a platform where these collectibles will be able to sit. And then, as I understand it, UFFS takes this NFT and adds utility to the fantasy gameplay experience. Another fantastic partnership.
Yeah, the Block Asset group, they're a great group to be working with. We've really enjoyed them, and they have a lot of connections there in two athletes. That's a big part of the partnership. Is they're a group of guys actually from the UK who know a ton of the combat sports community, the football, or as we call it, soccer community. They have a lot of connections in the sporting world as well. So they're going to be onboarding some of their athletes, and then the crossover effect, right? Maybe the NFL legends or the NFL alumni go over onto the collectible side, goes onto the Block Asset marketplace, and the player NFTs come to the UFFS marketplace. And so it'll be a very intertwined partnership, and it'll benefit both parties for sure. And again, one thing we talked about in the podcast or in the Andy segment, Darren, was the utility and the prize pools and how big these prize pools are going to be, and the fact that the players get a cut of those prize pools. But the other thing to remember is the franchise sales themselves. So obviously July for the Ultimate Fantasy American Football League, and then September for the American Football Legends League. Those franchise auctions, as we've seen in the UFHL, and we keep saying high stakes. I think it's worth highlighting just where these franchise sales have been going. We started a little over a year ago, and franchise sales were just in the hundreds at that time. Then they were in the thousands, and now they're in the tens of thousands of dollars to get the investment side going, to get involved in the gameplay by owning a franchise. And we saw the Blizzard, one of the UFHL franchises, set the new bar at slightly over 50,000 USD to purchase a franchise in the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League. We saw another franchise recently go for 35,000 USD. And with the legends on board and with the NFL support, you can just imagine where. And again, how big fantasy football is. You can just imagine where these franchise auctions are going to go, and the way that Andy's setting that up. We'll have Andy on again, obviously, but between now and the UFAHL auctions in July, and he can lay out how the auction's going to work. But it's going to be fascinating. That was a great word Andy used, fascinating, to see how these auctions play out and how valuable these franchises are, because we're already seeing, 50,000 USD for an NHL franchise. Or UFHL franchise? What are you going to get when you incorporate the NFL and the UFAHL as well as the AFLL? It's going up from here, Darren.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I've had whether it's friends or family or just people I know, starting to kind of figure out what we're up to. This is just people that I know personally, and starting to go on the website, read the news releases, and they're looking forward to the sports coming ahead, and they're saying, I'm starting to talk to different people to get a group together to buy a franchise. What do you think we should have as a budget to spend? And I said, well, I don't know. I don't even know how to guess anymore. So maybe you should just go to your group and find out where's their end point. Find out how much they're willing to spend, and find that top point, I guess, and go from there. I don't even know what to say anymore. So I just envision very big prices, very big prize pools, and a lot of excitement in the days ahead. I actually can't wait for more and more things to come, and this was just one of many more to come. And we're gonna skip all over to some different subjects here as we finish off this podcast. And I know about the HL Now podcast, but the good GMs are always going to be hard to find. We already know they're hard to find. We're asking people to submit resumes, and with more and more leagues coming on, this is very, very important. And good GMs can potentially make a living now, I think, doing this in the UFFS ecosystem. So I think that it would be amiss if we didn't just speak to the fact that we awarded the general manager of the year in the UFHL a prize voted on by their peers. So congratulations to Brian Hernandez and Xavier Smith, GM of the year of the Dynasty franchise. Fish, I didn't want to reiterate what you guys talked about in the podcast, but I thought it was too important to not talk about, because whenever you give a prize that's voted on by your peers, it's extra special in my opinion.
It is, and it didn't come with a large payout, but that they'll never forget, being the first GM of the year in the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League. It is something to hang your hat on, and especially the turnaround that they, and to be the GM of the year with a middle of the pack franchise. That just speaks to the amount of effort and the amount of time they put into writing that ship, or it was a sinking ship when they took over, and they got it into the middle of the pack. So an amazing job done by both Xavier, the GM, and Brian, the assistant GM, as well as the scout. A very successful season to get Dynasty back to the middle of the pack in the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League. And you're right, Darren, we're always looking for the best of the best as far as GMs go in every sport. And I know Andy will be looking for the UFAHL and the AFLL. A lot of people are purchasing franchises, as you said, Darren, as an investment, as an ownership group, and they are hiring and making arrangements with GMs and trying to recruit GMs that have won. I think I seen in the UFAHL chat this week, somebody came in and said, I've won 15 fantasy football league titles in the past however many years. But when you see somebody like that come in, they're a high stakes player, a competitive player, and we're seeing more and more of that in every sport. We have a list of candidates for the UFHL, the league that's up and running, the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League, and certainly anybody else is welcome to submit a resume and get everybody who basically has come in has been found a role, because a lot of franchises are taking on assistant GMs, capologists, people to just focus on the contracts. Because everything's real world, and it does take it's too much for one person. I don't think there's too many one-man operations left. So lots of opportunity for assistant GMs, lots of opportunity obviously for scouts, and again, football just starting up. There's going to be a ton of football scouts coming on. So I think we want the best of the best. If you're good at fantasy sports, this is the platform you want to be on. This is the proving ground where like you said, Darren, eventually you're going to be earning potentially a full-time wage. This will be your career as a fantasy sports GM. And I know a lot of people are going to say that sounds far-fetched, but so did earning a career as an esports or video game player, 20 years ago. So this is the future of fantasy sports, and this is professional fantasy sports here at UFFS.
Yeah, and it's a very cohesive ecosystem we have here at UFFS. As I think Andy said, and you said, Fish, you get in the Telegram chats, and I'm sure, guys like Brian Hernandez and Xavier Smith would be very happy to, be approached and give some insight on what they've done to become successful in this ecosystem. Guys like Alex LeBlanc, they're all out there willing to help out. So, yeah, I would encourage people to DM them on Telegram and find out what the magic is and what's involved in being a GM if you do have questions, because I imagine some people do. So congratulations, gentlemen. Saw their picture on the screen, a couple of happy young men, I think in LA, I believe is where they are at. So, congratulations, guys. That was a job very well done. So now, different subject again, but another thing I wanted to touch on, because this is so cool. Because, we talk about digital art and NFTs, but how about a non-NFT? How about owning an original score coin that is 1 ounce sterling silver and is limited in supply? Only 10,000 of these are ever going to be made. Come in a nice box set, going to be individually numbered. These things, are incredibly cool. I can't wait to get one in my hands. And, I just bought my family some sterling silver coins for Christmas, as a matter of fact. A little too early. It didn't have the UFFS score coin on it, but I think that people need to be aware of these. And once they're gone, they're gone. I don't know if you've seen them yet. I imagine you have, Fish, but these things are pretty cool. Something you can hold in your hand, right?
Absolutely, Darren. And this is one of the things I had to run and show the wife, because she likes stuff like that. Her dad's a coin collector, and I think they have interest in it. And it's funny, though, the wife is so new to crypto, Darren, and I'm going to embarrass her here. But just a week before we came out with the sterling silver score coins, she was YouTubing and Googling. She was trying to find an actual physical Bitcoin. She thought there was physical, that she didn't realize cryptocurrency was just digital. She thought you could still buy an actual physical coin and use it or collect it. And so she was looking for what we did with the sterling coins for score coins. She was looking just a week ago for the Bitcoin version. And there are obviously lots of videos on YouTube that show the physical Bitcoins, but there's no such thing. It's all digital, but so a bit embarrassing for her, but I was, hey, look, now you can actually have a physical coin that you wanted to, and perhaps get for your dad to collect the sterling silver score coins. So I think she got a good laugh out of that, but certainly we're excited to get one of those or a couple of those in our hands too. And they're going to be a very nice product.
I'm so glad you brought that up. It's a funny story and very personal to me, because when we were developing this UFFS thing and the cryptocurrency and the score coin, and I would try and get my parents sort of keep them up to date, give them a little bit of information. My mom's one response always back to me, and now I'm going to embarrass my mother here on this podcast, is she always said, yes, but can I have it in my hand? And well, no, but it's this digital wallet. I'm trying to explain a different generation, right? But now I can take this coin and I can say, here, Mom, now you have it in your hand. So it's actually a perfect story. I can't wait. And now she's going to have some expectations. She's going to get one. She might, but Mom, maybe you have to wait for Christmas. We'll see if we can work something out. So these are available now, individually numbered, as I said, maximum supply, 10,000 coins, somewhere around $160 USD. Obviously depends sometimes on the price of silver, payable in score only. And the contact information is in the ticker that you will see running at the bottom of your screen if you want to get a hold of us and buy your score coin before they're gone. Now, Fish, I think it is that time. We need to get on to our picks. It's rookie versus the pro. You being the pro, me being the rookie. You beat me last year, so I'm still the rookie. I can't take the pro status yet. And my guesses are just crapshoots anyway, mostly. So I noticed last I looked, it might have changed between now and yesterday. But we had a close race. You were at 21 points. I was at 18. So we do have merch up for grabs for anybody that has entered the UFHL NHL Playoff Pool. And it's a tank top or a T-shirt, logo of your choice from the merch store. If you beat the pro or lose to the rookie, and it actually could be both if I end up beating you, Fish, but we'll see what happens. So I'm ready to go if you are. I just need to grab my picks here. And
yeah, I'm good to go.
Okay,
Darren.
So yeah, we're talking round number 2. We're only going to do the NHL right now because we can't get into the UFHL portion just yet. So you start this time.
Sure, Darren. We can start in the East Division final where your Bruins are playing. The New York Islanders. Those actually were the 2 lower seeds there, Darren. 3 and 4 came out of that division. They knocked off 1 and 2, which were Pittsburgh and Washington. But Boston against the Islanders, I'm going with your Bruins in 6. And I just think they have the better overall team. I think goaltending was good for the Islanders in the first round, but head-to-head, I still prefer Tuukka Rask. And I think I said before the playoffs started, I thought Boston was going to be a Final Four a team in the NHL, and I'm sticking to that. I have the Bruins in 6.
Well, you know what, Fish, and I don't think I'm copying you here, but obviously, Pasternak had just a crazy game last night. I didn't get to see it. I was watching the Leafs versus Montreal, but I'm also going with Bruins in 6. I'm a Bruins guy. I said they're going all the way to the final. So yeah, we are the same on that one. So you can go ahead on your next one.
So we'll go over to the Central Division final where it's Carolina versus Tampa Bay. And I was tempted to take the sweep here, Darren, in all honesty. This was one that I thought if there's going to be a sweep in the second round, this was one of the ones that I liked a possibility of. But I went with Tampa Bay in 5. I just think Tampa Bay, that Florida rivalry was so good. I think both Florida teams are, even though Carolina was the one to finish atop those standings, I think with Tampa getting back Kucherov and Stamkos for the playoffs, they're loaded. I really like Tampa in 5 in that series. And it could be a longer series, but I would be shocked if Carolina comes out on top. Even though Carolina went to the Eastern Conference Final last year, I think Tampa Bay is loaded for another run. And as I've said before, if any franchise in recent memory in the NHL can repeat, be a back-to-back winner of the Stanley Cup, I think it's the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I have Tampa in 5.
Well, you see, and this is where it either falls apart or I have a chance to beat you with an upset that you don't predict. And I don't know why I always go against Tampa Bay, and that's how I fell apart, I think, last year in this thing. But I'm going to choose Carolina, and I guess I'm just going for the underdog. No real reason, but I'm going to say Carolina in 6 on that one. So we'll see. I'm going to take down what you chose, but we'll see what happens in that one. That might be my chance, but yeah, well, it could fall apart again. Next one.
Yeah, like you said, Darren, it's super close right now, 21-18. And recapping the standings here, just kind of halfway through the picks, it is 21-18. We both have Toronto for the Game 7, so we could both get picks. We'll either both get 3 more points, or neither of us will get any points there if Montreal wins. But the UFHL picks is what's really going to turn us to, Darren. And just so you don't feel bad looking at the standings, it looks like you're going to pull ahead and possibly be 3 points ahead after the UFHL final matchups and points are added on Monday. So I think you might be leading after the first round, which you were last year as well. I had to make a comeback as the pro. You were leading after the first round. But going into the the other side of the bracket, or I guess the other divisions, the West Division final has Colorado versus Vegas. For me, this is almost the Stanley Cup final. I think Colorado and Vegas, this is the best series of the second round, and I look at these two as, usually they're in different divisions, and I would expect them to be, in a normal year, the Western Conference final. I think this is the most exciting matchup on paper of the second round, and I think it's going the distance. I have Colorado over Vegas in 7 games. I think this is going to be a real good test for Colorado because Vegas has been through some playoff wars and been to the final, and Colorado's sort of the up-and-coming team. So this could be a chance for Colorado. They got, obviously they have Nathan McKinnon has more time to get healthy, fully healthy, and I think he's going to step up again and lead the way, and I have Colorado over Vegas in 7.
Yeah, so this one was a tough call for me. I'm just going back to what I predicted, quite a while ago, and I still think Vegas is going to take it. I think it's going to be a close race. I'm going to say Vegas in 7, and no other reason than Vegas just continues to surprise. I just think they will. And now on to the northern teams here. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, last but not least, the North Division final. We get to make 2 picks here, Darren, because there's still a pending Game 7. So we don't know who the Winnipeg Jets are going to play, whether it'll be Montreal or Toronto. So we'll pick them both. And if it's Winnipeg-Toronto, I have Winnipeg in 5. The way Winnipeg steamrolled Edmonton and the fact that Josh Morrissey was able to shut down Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and I expect, Toronto has Matthews and Marner on the same line. I really think Josh Morrissey and the Winnipeg Jets, again, another week to get healthy. Nikolai Ehlers, Pierre-Luc Dubois, guys that are, still coming off injuries, getting up to speed. I think Winnipeg, if they steamrolled Edmonton in 4, even though they were all 1-goal games and 3 overtime games, I think Winnipeg's momentum is going to carry them through. Winnipeg over Toronto in 5. If Montreal pulls off this upset in Game 7, I think that's their Stanley Cup. I think if Montreal beats Toronto in Game 7, rallies back from a 3-1 deficit, that's the pinnacle for Montreal. I think the adrenaline dump happens there. I have Winnipeg sweeping Montreal in 4. So I think it's going to be a short series either way. I think Winnipeg's the team to beat in the North Division now, the way they dismantled the Edmonton Oilers, who were one of the hottest teams coming into the playoffs. I have Jets in 5 over Toronto or Jets in 4 over Montreal.
Well, Fish, I think my wife is probably going to send you a thank you card because I'm going against the Jets again, and they actually befuddled me, and I'm a Jets fan. I still get to keep both these jerseys up here, and I just did not see them beating Edmonton. Maybe it was the Ehlers magic. I don't know what it is, but I'm so glad they get to rest, especially for Wheeler, because he got it in the wrist, and he's probably going to need that extra time. But I am going to say, whether it is Montreal or whether it is Toronto, and goodness, I hope it's Toronto, I'm going to say it's going to be Toronto over Winnipeg in 6. If it happens to be Montreal, I'm just going to say the same thing, Montreal in 6. So that's how I look at it from that perspective. And I guess that takes care of it for that. We'll try and get our UFHL picks in when we can. I might announce mine on the 2-Minute Tuesday, or they'll be in the Google Sheets for everybody to look at. Other than that, Fish, we should probably just talk about upcoming special dates that people need to be aware of in the UFFS ecosystem.
Yeah, so an exciting event coming up, live event on Wednesday, June 2nd. We'll be doing the NHL Draft Lottery is at 7 p.m. Eastern. As soon as that wraps up or shortly thereafter, Dean Millard and myself from UFHL Now will be doing a live UFHL Draft Lottery because, again, we always try to mirror and emulate the NHL. So the 16 franchises that have a chance to be among the top 5 bidding on first overall in the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League and in our version of the NHL Draft in July, they'll find out where their draft position is on a live show on Wednesday. And we're going to obviously recap the NHL Draft, preview some of the prospects that are at the top of the draft. And then last but not least, we'll run the simulator on tankathon.com, use that simulator to determine which are the 2 lucky lottery winners, because they'll be doing 2 draws this year in the NHL, and Tankathon will as well. So who are the 2 lucky franchises that enter that top 5 bidding war for first overall in the UFHL? And that's sort of the big event this week, Darren. And I wanted to throw it back to you, though, on one last prediction, because everybody tomorrow morning, and then when they see this podcast, they're going to be turning their attention to Game 7, Toronto-Montreal, Original Six rivalry. Do you have a prediction for who takes Game 7 tomorrow night between Toronto and Montreal?
Well, I think it's obviously I'm really hoping for the Leafs, and I can't stand the Habs. Sorry, Luke, and any other, I think Donnie Tulk, another Habs fan out there, but it's just one team that I absolutely will not cheer for. I think Toronto is going to take it. I think that, I don't know what it was, but they couldn't pull it off last night, and I think that Toronto's going to do it. They're not going to let this one slip by them. Absolutely not. So don't know the score, but I think Toronto's going to take it.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game because, in my opinion, Darren, all the pressure is on Toronto now. You were up 3-1. You allowed it to get back to 3-3, and you're going into a one-game winner-takes-all showdown. Marner and Matthews. Marner hasn't scored a goal yet in this series. Matthews only has one goal. And you look at Jack Campbell in net. This is his first, chance to be a starter in the NHL playoffs. Now you're in Game 7 of the first round, and you're going up against Carey Price, the most decorated goaltender of this era. The pressure won't get to Carey Price. He's been the goaltender for Canada in gold medal games in the Olympics. He's won World Junior gold. Everything else, he's been at the highest level. So it's hard to bet against Carey Price in a one-game winner-takes-all situation. But you know what, Darren? I'm going with the Leafs as well. I'm going with you. I think it's going to be, I did a little prediction here. I think it's going to be 4-1 Toronto with an empty netter. And I really think Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, I think they redeem themselves here because that Toronto's top line hasn't generated much in this series and hasn't been a factor on the power play really either. William Nylander's been carrying the load. I think this is where Toronto has their breakthrough game, Game 7 at home. Too bad there won't be fans there in Toronto as there were some in Montreal, but I really think 4-1. I'm going to say Austin Matthews completes the hat trick with an empty netter, and I'm going to say Mitch Marner has a point on all 4 goals. So 4-1 Toronto. They finally break through on Carey Price, Toronto's top line. So that's the way I see tomorrow night's Game 7 playing out. But it's going to be an interesting one, and it's going to shake things up again in that UFHL NHL playoff pool, not only for the NHL result there, but for going forward, who you pick in those UFHL picks, because you're right, those will be due Tuesday afternoon prior to Game 2 of Tampa Bay and Carolina on Tuesday. Everybody has to get their UFHL picks in. And the reason that's going to throw a kink in is because there are franchises that are in the mix to advance or not advance, and ones that have already advanced in their bracket in the UFHL, Darren, but they have Austin Matthews or they have Mitch Marner. So, you can't pick them yet because what happens if Austin Matthews isn't in the second round? That might change your pick. So everybody be watching that Game 7, and as soon as it's over, get your picks in for the UFHL portion of the UFHL NHL playoff pool.
Yeah, I hope you're right, and stop with those 5-on-3s and silly penalties, and they might be okay. So, as the great Dean Millard, once said, the two best words, I think, in sports is Game 7, if you want to do it in 2 words. And I think the 2 best words in the UFFS, or UFSN, I should say, is live events. So look forward to that as well. So I want to thank everyone, especially for tuning in, wherever you may be in the sporting world, crypto world, or otherwise. Really appreciate your time. And we'll talk to you on the 2-Minute Tuesday on Tuesday and next UFFS Podcast, which is our silver episode, edition number 25, coming up in a couple of weeks. This is Bates and Fish saying see ya from UFFS, where you own the game.
This has been the UFFS Podcast with Darren Bates and Larry Fisher. Get in the game where you own the game at www.uffsports.com.